The sterile hum of the hospital room was punctuated by the flicker of fluorescent lights, their harsh glow dancing mockingly on the sterile walls. Wedged upright in my bed, a metallic jungle gym of tubes and monitors clinging to me, I awaited Ethan's arrival. He entered with a swagger that felt a touch out of place for someone supposedly recovering from major surgery, my surgery no less. A surgery where I, quite literally, gave him a piece of myself to save his life. Laura, his voice started, clipped and devoid of warmth, his eyes stubbornly avoiding mine. We need to talk. An undercurrent of apprehension crackled in the air, and I braced myself, but nothing could have prepared me for the verbal blow that followed. I think we should get a divorce. The words hung heavy, suffocating, stealing the air from the room. The ground beneath me seemed to melt away. What? I gasped, my voice barely a tremor. Ethan finally met my gaze, his eyes distant, ice-cold. Look, Laura, he continued, his tone tinged with an almost clinical detachment. You can't manage the house or take care of me anymore. This situation has made it clear you're not the partner I need. The sting of betrayal left me speechless. The man standing before me, the man I had loved and nurtured, was a stranger draped in a familiar skin. But I just gave you part of my liver, Ethan. I saved your life. My voice cracked with disbelief and a rising tide of anger. Exactly, Laura, he replied, his gaze unwavering. You saved my life, and I'll be eternally grateful. But gratitude doesn't pay the bills, and frankly, we've been drifting apart for a while now. This is just the culmination. His words were sharper than any surgical blade, slicing through the years of our shared history. Lying there, vulnerable and violated, I couldn't help but wonder. Was this his true repayment? Coldness wrapped in divorce papers, delivered on a sterile hospital bed. Married vows, I spat, anger coursing through my veins, convenient only when the sickness suits you. His promise of in sickness and in health echoed hollow in the sterile air. Ethan sighed, a weary gesture that failed to mask the coldness in his eyes. I remember, Laura, he said, voice flat. But people change, circumstances evolve. I need a future, and you don't fit the picture anymore. The urge to scream, to unleash years of built-up frustration, clawed at my throat. But it died there, replaced by a chilling whisper. So this is it? You leave I need you most? It's not that, he offered, voice devoid of conviction. I can't be who you expect. I'm sorry. With that, he vanished, leaving me drowning in the wreckage of our shattered vows. His retreating footsteps were a cruel melody, each click reverberating in the hollowness of my chest. The irony was a bitter pill to swallow. Ethan, the man who couldn't handle the faintest trace of illness in his wife, lived and breathed thanks to me. And now he walked away, free to paint his own future, while I lay here, a tapestry of brokenness and betrayal. The fire within me roared, consuming the ashes of my affection for Ethan. Divorce, he wished. This wouldn't be a clean escape. I'd rise from these ashes, stronger, fiercer, and I'd make sure he remembered this day, etched in regret for the rest of his life. Weeks blurred into each other, transforming the sterile hospital room into a suffocating cell. Days blurred, marked only by sterile pronouncements from doctors and the occasional stilted visit from Ethan's family, whose concern felt colder than the antiseptic air. In one of those interminable stretches of loneliness, I found myself delving into the past, dissecting the path that led us to this abyss of pain. Our story started at the cozy haven of the publishing firm, where I, a fledgling comic artist, and Ethan, the sharp-witted political writer, were drawn together by shared dreams and the magic of words. Our connection bloomed rapidly, fueled by late-night whispers of aspirations and ambitions. Ethan, charming and passionate about his work, seemed utterly devoted. His proposal was a fairy tale come true, but the illusions started to fray at the edges soon after our vows. Ethan's career skyrocketed, consuming him whole. The household became my sole domain, a silent kingdom I ruled while he chased his glory. Our conversations, once vibrant exchanges of respect and understanding, morphed into bitter clashes over my place in his redefined reality. "You knew what you signed up for," Ethan's dismissive mantra whenever I dared mention loneliness or unmet needs. "I need a supportive career partner, not a clingy burden." My attempts to voice my isolation were met with cold indifference. "You're overreacting, Laura. We're fine. Find a hobby," he'd say, eyes glued to screens, never truly seeing me. The painful realization dawned. Ethan didn't see me as a partner, but an afterthought, a prop in his grand career play. I poured my heart into my comics, seeking solace in vibrant characters who lived fulfilling lives unlike my own, shrinking with each passing day. At a family gathering, Ethan's mother, sensing my silent sorrow, pulled me aside. "Laura, I know Ethan's ambition can be consuming, but you deserve better. Your family, and we're here, even when he isn't." Her words, meant to soothe, stung with the truth. My life, it seemed, became a tapestry woven from apologies and justifications for his choices. Our once loving marriage, a facade concealing a harsh reality. What had I become? A wife reduced to career support and silent acceptance. My sacrifices mere props in his performance. The love, the partnership I believed in, had transformed into a cold business transaction, one Ethan now deemed unprofitable thanks to my inconvenience. As sterile white walls mocked me from my hospital bed, a revelation dawned. Ethan's divorce wasn't just a marriage ending, it was my life reclaiming itself. Gone were the days of the silent supporter, the wife sacrificed on the altar of convenience. I wouldn't just fight back, I'd roar back, reclaiming my dignity and self-worth with each defiant breath. He thought he could discard me after I literally gave him a piece of myself, but I was more than just a caretaker, more than just his wife. I was Laura Barnes, and I wouldn't be underestimated not one more minute. The ember of resolve ignited the day Ethan walked out, now a raging inferno within me, armed with truth and a strength he'd never witnessed. I was ready to face whatever came next. It was when Ethan received his chilling diagnosis, cirrhosis, that our fractured marriage faced its ultimate test. The doctor's voice, cold and clinical, echoed off the stark walls as he painted a grim picture. "Without a liver transplant, Mr. Barnes, your prognosis is bleak." Ethan's denial ricocheted through the room. "Mistake, I feel fine." But the truth was undeniable. The relentless work, the alcohol-fueled events, they had exacted their toll. In that moment, in that sterile tomb of a hospital room, Ethan turned to me with a desperation I had never seen. "Laura, you're my only hope. Please, I need you." The weight of his plea settled heavily, reminding me of the flicker of love, the care that still lingered. And despite everything, I couldn't turn away. "If I'm a match," I choked out, the words feeling like ashes on my tongue. The tests confirmed it. I was his savior, his walking spare part, and the surgery was set. The days leading up were a whirlwind of paperwork, sterile consultations, and a crushing loneliness. Ethan's family expressed genuine thanks, their eyes holding an unspoken acknowledgement of his role in this mess. "Thank you, Laura," his mother said, voice thick with emotion. "You're doing something incredible." Ethan's response, however, was a stark contrast. "You're saving my career, Laura. I won't forget this," he stated, devoid of the warmth that once resided in his gaze. The embers of my affection had been extinguished, replaced by a hollow numbness. The surgery was a success, at least for Ethan. He bounced back quickly, fueled by the prospect of resuming his life, his work. My recovery, however, was a different story. The physical pain paled in comparison to the realization that Ethan viewed my suffering as a mere inconvenience, a stepping stone on his path to normalcy. During a fleeting visit, his true feelings were laid bare. "This really puts things in perspective," he said, his eyes refusing to meet mine. "I need to focus on getting back to work. We'll talk about us later." "Us?" I spat, the bitterness surprising even me. "You've made your priorities abundantly clear, Ethan. What's left to discuss?" He shrugged. a dismissive gesture. "Laura, you knew what you were getting into. My career has always been my North Star. Remember that conversation about support? That moment was my turning point. The harsh reality of our marriage crystallized before me. I was a tool, a solution, not a partner. My needs, my dreams, my sacrifices, all inconsequential to his ambitions." As his footsteps faded down the sterile corridor, a steely resolve solidified within me. I wouldn't be the silent, suffering wife anymore. Ethan had taken everything, my love, a piece of my liver, and now sought to discard me like a used bandage. But I wouldn't let him. I would fight back, not just for myself, but for every ignored plea, every dismissive word, every sacrifice made in vain. Ethan Barnes would learn that my generosity had a price, one he would pay dearly. Sterile air hung heavy in the lawyer's office, mirroring the icy atmosphere between me and the man I once loved. Ethan sat across from me, impatience and arrogance battling on his face, a stark dissonance from the weight of our meeting. He shoved a stack of papers across the table, barely masking his disdain. "Let's fast forward, Laura," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Consider this a fair settlement. Everything's in order." I scanned the documents, each word a punch to the gut. "Fair," I choked, disbelief colouring my voice. "You call this fair after I literally saved your life?" Ethan smirked, the glint in his eyes colder than the antiseptic decor. "Just being realistic, Laura. Our marriage was over long before this. We're both better off moving on." The lawyer fidgeted, sensing the storm brewing. Ethan waved him off, his gaze unwavering on me. "Look, Laura, I'm starting fresh. You should too. Take the offer, it's generous, considering." His words were like salt on an open wound, a stark reminder of the transactional nightmare our marriage had become. A new chapter bought with my sacrifice, I countered, my voice firm despite the turmoil within. "I deserve more than this. For every ignored plea, every moment of pain, you owe me." Ethan's laughter, devoid of warmth, sent chills down my spine. "Delusional much. I made you who you are. Without me, you're nothing." That was it. The years of suppressed pain and humiliation ignited a fiery resolve within me. "We'll see about that, Ethan. You may have thought this was over, but the game has just begun. And this time, I play by my own rules." As I walked out, I saw a flicker of doubt pierce the facade of his confidence. The battle lines were drawn, and he wouldn't recognize the woman he thought he could discard so easily. The days spun by in a whirlwind of strategy and planning. My colleague and confidant, Mark, became my partner in this quest for justice. Over steaming coffee, I poured out the bitter truth of Ethan's betrayal, painting a stark portrait of the man behind the carefully crafted facade. "He can't get away with this, Laura," Mark declared, his anger echoing my own. "You deserve better. We need to expose him for the manipulator he truly is." "Absolutely," I responded, the weight of my decision settling like a stone in my gut. It's time karma paid Ethan a visit. We meticulously crafted a plan, daring and a touch reckless. Leveraging Mark's network, we secured an interview with a renowned online platform known for its fearless investigative journalism. This platform would be my voice, broadcasting the truth of Ethan's deceit and manipulation for the world to witness. As the article went live, fear and vindication warred within me. The headline itself, "The Unseen Sacrifice." A wife's tale of betrayal and bravery stood as a testament to the arduous journey I'd undertaken. Ethan's response was immediate and predictable. His rage crackled through the phone line, venomous and palpable. "How dare you do this to me, Laura? You'll regret this." "It's just the truth, Ethan," I said, my voice calm yet unwavering. "A truth you've been desperately trying to bury. You think you can break me. I'm suing you for defamation." His threats, laced with desperation and anger, held no power over me. I had taken the first step towards reclaiming my life and dignity, no longer the silent victim of his cruelty. As the fallout unfolded, with Ethan's public image and career crumbling, I watched from a distance. There was no joy in my heart, only a quiet satisfaction that justice was finally being served. This fight wasn't about revenge, but about reclaiming the voice Ethan had tried to silence. Now, standing on the threshold of a new beginning, I knew the real battles lay ahead. But for the first time in a long time, I felt ready, truly ready, to face them head-on. Ethan's carefully constructed world imploded in slow motion after the article's release. My phone chirped relentlessly, messages of support and shared stories of betrayal from old friends, colleagues, even strangers. It was overwhelming, yet a powerful validation. Ethan, meanwhile, stood trapped in the hurricane he'd unleashed. The first crack in his facade came courtesy of a viral video capturing his confrontation with a journalist. His anger, usually concealed by charm, was laid bare for all to see. "Why aren't you telling the truth about Laura trying to ruin me?" He spat, venom lacing his voice. The journalist's response was calm. "We're just interested in the truth, Mr. Barnes." The truth, a concept alien to Ethan, fueled his rage. His tirade continued, oblivious to cameras recording every gesture of disdain. This wasn't the charming, witty public figure. This was the man I knew, the one I fought with, loved, and eventually left. Mark's call buzzed with excitement. "Seen the latest? Ethan's self-destructing. Your story opened the floodgates. People are coming forward." I didn't expect this impact, I admitted, voice unsteady. "I just wanted to tell my story." "You did the right thing, Laura," Mark assured me. The world needed to see the real Ethan, not the mask he wore. Ethan's life spiraled out of control as desperate attempts to regain control backfired spectacularly. Sponsors vanished, his online presence became a toxic battleground, and his career dried up. The man who manipulated public opinion was now a pariah, his words dismissed and dissected. The final scene unfolded on a low-rated talk show, a stark contrast to his usual influential platforms. "I've been misrepresented," he pleaded, his voice lacking its usual conviction. "The evidence suggests otherwise, Mr. Barnes," the host replied, unmoved. "Your actions, your words, you built your own prison." Watching his floundering, I felt a complex mix of emotions. No joy in his fall, no satisfaction in his pain. Just a somber recognition of the inevitable end to a story that began when his ambition usurped our marriage, his ego trampled our partnership. This wasn't a victory celebration, but a quiet reflection on the price of truth. Ethan's downfall was public spectacle, but for me, it was a deeply personal closure, a liberation from a life that brought me to the brink. Switching off the TV, I surveyed my quiet apartment, the noise of Ethan's downfall fading into the background. Time to move forward, rebuild not just my life, but my sense of self. His legacy would be cautionary, his story marred by regret, but mine was still unwritten. And with each sunrise, I felt the strength to write a new chapter, one defined by resilience, dignity, and an unyielding pursuit of truth. Ethan's downfall wasn't just public spectacle, it became a cautionary whisper echoing through power corridors and social media feeds. Every attempt to salvage his reputation backfired, each denial and accusation against me pushing him further from the court of public opinion. Weeks after the explosive interview, Ethan reached out directly for the first time since the article. His voice, once commanding, now crackled with desperation. "Laura, please," he pleaded. "This has gone too far. Can't we meet and fix this?" His pleas, designed to manipulate, only fueled memories of broken promises. "Fix this?" I scoffed. "Ethan, there's nothing left to fix. You made your choices, but my voice hitched. I'm losing everything." His facade crumbled, the unflappable commentator stammering. "Can't you see this vendetta is destroying me?" I paused, carefully choosing my words. "This isn't a vendetta, Ethan. It's accountability, something you've long avoided." His response was a mix of anger and desperation, but I held my ground. "The only madness, Ethan, was thinking you could treat people like tools without consequences. You're on your own now." The call ended with a click, leaving me in the quiet of my apartment, a stark contrast to the storm Ethan faced. His empire of charm and manipulation lay in ruins, his legacy tarnished by his own actions. Weeks later, Ethan's public appearances dwindled to nothing. The platforms that once sought his insights now ostracized him. His name became synonymous with betrayal, even his social media, once a battleground of support and condemnation, fell silent. The world had moved on, leaving Ethan Barnes a forgotten footnote in the relentless news cycle. But the full impact hit me when Mark called, his voice heavy. Ethan's been let go from his consultancy. They're distancing themselves from the controversy. The news stirred a complex mix of emotions within me. Ethan built his career on being the voice of reason, the man who unraveled complex issues with ease. Now he was voiceless, his fall from grace complete. Such a waste, I murmured, not just for Ethan, but for the potential he squandered. He had it all. Mark just lost his way. Mark hummed in agreement, and we moved on to other things. Yet my thoughts lingered on Ethan. Blinded by ambition, he'd sacrificed everything, including those who loved him. His downfall wasn't just a character flaw. It was a stark warning of unchecked ambition's devastating price tag. As the call ended, the finality of Ethan's situation washed over me. No joy in his loss, no triumph in his defeat. Just a quiet understanding of the inevitable consequences of a life built on exploiting others. Turning from the window, I realized that while Ethan's story had closed, mine was just beginning. Free from the shadow of his deceit, I could finally write my own future. Not defined by the pain of the past, but by the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoy our story. To watch more interesting stories, hit that subscribe button. Thank you.